Ransomware explained. How it works and how to remove it. Here's everything you need to know about the file encrypting malware and how it works. Ransomware is a form of malware that encrypts a victim's files. The attacker then demands a ransom from the victim to restore access to the data upon payment. Users are shown instructions for how to pay a fee to get the decryption key. The costs can range from a few $100s to thousands, payable to cybercriminals in Bitcoin. How ransomware works. There are a number of vectors ransomware can take to access a computer. One of the most common delivery systems is phishing spam, attachments that come to the victim in an email, masquerading as a file they should trust. Once they're downloaded and opened, they can take over the victim's computer, especially if they have built-in social engineering tools that trick users into allowing administrative access. Some other, more aggressive forms of ransomware, like NotPetya, exploit security holes to infect computers without needing to trick users. There are several things the malware might do once it's taken over the victim's computer, but by far the most common action is to encrypt some or all of the user's files. If you want the technical details, the InfoSec Institute has a great in-depth look at how several flavors of ransomware encrypt files. But the most important thing to know is that at the end of the process, the files cannot be decrypted without a mathematical key known only by the attacker. The user is presented with a message explaining that their files are now inaccessible and will only be decrypted if the victim sends an untraceable Bitcoin payment to the attacker. In some forms of malware, the attacker might claim to be a law enforcement agency shutting down the victim's computer due to the presence of pornography or pirated software on it, and demanding the payment of a fine, perhaps to make victims less likely to report the attack to authorities. But most attacks don't bother with this pretense. There is also a variation, called leakware or doxware, in which the attacker threatens to publicize sensitive data on the victim's hard drive unless a ransom is paid. But because finding and extracting such information is a very tricky proposition for attackers, encryption ransomware is by far the most common type. Who is a target for ransomware? There are several different ways attackers choose the organizations they target with ransomware. Sometimes it's a matter of opportunity. For instance, attackers might target universities because they tend to have smaller security teams and a disparate user base that does a lot of file sharing, making it easier to penetrate their defenses. On the other hand, some organizations are tempting targets because they seem more likely to pay a ransom quickly. For instance, government agencies or medical facilities often need immediate access to their files. Law firms and other organizations with sensitive data may be willing to pay to keep news of a compromise quiet, and these organizations may be uniquely sensitive to leakware attacks. But don't feel like you're safe if you don't fit these categories. As we noted, some ransomware spreads automatically and indiscriminately across the internet. How to prevent ransomware? There are a number of defensive steps you can take to prevent ransomware infection. These steps are of course good security practices in general, so following them improves your defenses from all sorts of attacks. Keep your operating system patched and up to date to ensure you have fewer vulnerabilities to exploit. Don't install software or give it administrative privileges unless you know exactly what it is and what it does. Install antivirus software, which detects malicious programs like ransomware as they arrive, and whitelisting software, which prevents unauthorized applications from executing in the first place. And, of course, back up your files, frequently and automatically. That won't stop a malware attack, but it can make the damage caused by one much less significant. Ransomware removal. If your computer has been infected with ransomware, you'll need to regain control of your machine. To do this, we can help you. Go to our website https://it.ro and ask for professional remote help.